Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Story number 1. The Empty Fort Strategy, written by I Am the Hype TFS. Well, this is about as crappy as it can get, Captain Dunkirk openly admitted as he looked over a map with the remnants of his men. There were only a few dozen of his troops left, and they'd been losing ground to the enemy for the past few days. Reinforcements were on the way, but they needed at least another day to arrive, and with how doggedly the enemy captain was with their attacks, they wouldn't be able to hold out that long. It's lucky enough that we stumbled across this mining facility. At the very least, it's defensible, and we won't be pinpointed by the drones anymore.
Those damnable cockroaches! We should have finished them off 2 days ago!
Aratorian Captain Skrull snarled as he looked at the map of his own, his forked tongue rapidly flicking in and out of his mouth in displeasure. His troops easily outnumbered the humans' forces by 5 times or more, and yet the adaptability of his human counterpart had foiled his hopes of a quick and clean victory. This Dunkirk kept managing to either outthink Skrull's ambushes or just make the right strategic sacrifices to ensure an expeditious retreat when Skrull launched frontal assaults. Now they had ample cover in the mining facility that he didn't know was there, and he was livid.
How did the human know it was there when it's not even their planet? But we didn't. I was told these were the latest maps, damn it! Get me a copy of the oldest maps we have on file, now!
It's been 3 hours. I'm not sure why the Skrull hasn't taken advantage of his numbers advantage. Sure, it would strain his ammo reserves a bit, but we're going to run out of long before he does. If his troops just sit out there and make us waste our shots, then why win with minimal effort? Dunkirk racked his brain both on how to hold on and why his opponent seemed so hesitant. Over the course of their battles, the human had gotten some small insights into the enemy commander's mind, noting preferred attack patterns, formations, and the pacing of battles in general. It was just about the only thing that kept Dunkirk and his men in the fight, and he knew Skrull knew it too. After their second encounter, the captain felt distinctly targeted by the enemy fire, and it almost made him feel flattered. Clearly Skrull saw him as a threat, but in his opinion, it was a flattery he didn't deserve because he was still losing the war, and his insights were only just barely helping them cling to survival. Wait a minute! Gather everyone up. I've got an idea. Let's just hope the Skrull is smart enough to fall for it. And where are those kids we picked up from the town?
Cunning bastard!
There it was, forgotten about in the later iterations. But there the facility was on the older map Skrull was presented with. He had been warned about human ingenuity and out-of-the-box thinking, but now he believed it.
Dunkirk must have known that he couldn't win the battle out in the open, so he lured our forces to a more favorable ground. We don't have the heavy weapons to get through the facility walls, and there was only one entrance and exit.
The frills in Skrull's neck trembled in confusion as he tried to figure out what his opponent was thinking. Because while this was certainly a good plan, Dunkirk didn't have the manpower to take advantage of it. With enough men, they could turn the facility into a kill box by forcing Skrull's men to come in through the sole entrance. But the numbers didn't add up. But he refused to believe that the human captain, who had outmaneuvered him several times, had just stumbled onto the facility. It had to have been planned.
Get me a scout. We're not moving on the human's position until I hear the report of the situation there.
Dunkirk sucked in a deep, unsteady breath and stepped outside the facility. Everyone had to play their parts, but if he screwed up, then it was definitely over. He mentally commanded his body to relax, to act like the immense tension and stress he was under with such a ridiculous plan wasn't there. Casually strolling over to an overturned mining cart a few feet away from the entrance that he hadn't even bothered to close. The door was about halfway open, allowing anyone to see in, but not get a clear picture of what was going on inside. The captain sat down on the cart, lit up a cigarette, and leaned back against the wall, even going so far as to close his eyes in an effort to give off an air of carelessness. This was either going to work, or he was going to be shot. Still, there were worse ways to go. A human is exiting the facility. It appears to be the one called Dunkirk, sir. I have a clear shot. Should I take it?
Yeah, wait. No, just continue observing. Why would he? Never mind, what is he doing?
Skrull's sense of confusion only grew as the scout relayed the enemy captain's movements. How could he be acting so relaxed in such a situation? Perhaps he could understand the actions if the scout had caught a glimpse of the human inside, but to willingly leave the only safety he and his men had just to sit and smoke. Skrull was in the middle of giving himself a headache trying to work out Dunkirk's logic when the communications lit up again. The door is partially open, sir. I am adjusting position to get a better view inside. The scout went silent for a few minutes before speaking once again. I can't see too much, sir. No sign of the other Wait. Have movement. One adult human male and...
And what? Finish your report, soldier.
Skrull was already agitated, and the scout trailing off didn't help his overtaxed mind at all. For Ratorians, children, sir. They appear to be playing tag. The scout sounded just as stunned as Skrull felt. He knew that the humans had taken the orphans from the first town they encountered them at, with them during the retreat. But this didn't make sense. Humans and Ratorians knew little about each other culturally, and so initially Skrull had thought the worst, that Dunkirk and his men were planning on using the children as shields. But in the succeeding battles, they had clearly taken on a protecting role instead, keeping them well back to avoid any injuries, so Skrull assumed that they had made their own mistaken assumption. Although he had been ordered to attack the town, Ratorian law was very clear on not harming children whenever possible during conflicts. But the humans would have no way of knowing that. That's what made this the most confusing thing by far, since Skrull had seen more than a few humans stay behind and die to cover a retreat, seemingly for the express purpose of letting the children escape. So, to allow them to not only run around the facility in general, but to play right by the open entrance, while their commanding officer sat completely exposed, triggered every possible warning bell in his mind. Suddenly, the only possible explanation he could think of formed in his mind. It was a trap. It had to be. If his scout so much as raised his weapon towards Dunkirk, a hidden sniper would take him out. Worse than that, though, there had to be more humans in the facility. They had probably always been there and were just waiting for Dunkirk and his men. With the mistaken belief that he outnumbered them, Skrull was more likely to take the risk of attacking the fortified position and fall directly into an ambush, at which point they would overwhelm them with numbers and his force would fall.
Get back here now, as fast as you can. Make sure you aren't seen.
Skrull practically screamed into the communicator before violently whipping around to shout orders at his men.
Back up, on the double. I want us to be ready to move as soon as the scout returns. Send a message to the main force that we are linking up with them, and to avoid sending smaller forces to this area. I won't see this human get the better of me.
His men ran off to carry out his orders, while Skrull glared down at the map.
Next time, Dunkirk!
End of story. Story number 2. They Are Beneath Us, written by Voidy Boy. Begin log. When we found this planet, it had been blasted into the ground by nuclear weapons. When we found this planet, no life remained on the surface. When we found this planet, abandoned and destroyed. So, we colonized it, made it our home. We found this place during our early years of space exploration. Despite its conditions and shortcomings, it made a good home. We built our cities over the old ones, made the previously dead canals full with life and movement. We lived, ate, sung, and cried on this planet, made the air breathable again, removed the ash from the atmosphere, and made the sky blue. Pity, really, that we never knew what was beneath us. When war broke out against the Scourge, this planet was in the front row. Armies poured in to defend the system and its resources, but it could not last against him. Supplies cut off, and our system in threat, they left us to fend for ourselves. We had no defenses against their orbital bombardment, so we moved down into the bowels of the planet to escape them. When we moved down, down, and down, we stopped after our tools began to break and bend under the heat of the core. But something awoke beneath us. It started simple. Disappearances of our kind, stolen objects, cut wires, and noises between our walls. Then they came. Their bodies were twisted, broken, and fried, their skin as cold as the metal walls that surrounded us. They were Machines. They never spoke. They never slept. They always here. They hunted us. Above was the scourge, and down here was them. As I'm writing this, another 1,000 have died to them. Please, if you find this place or this message, leave this place. These machines aren't simply thinking. They hunt in packs and wear you down. They close in on you, singing their demented lullaby. Leave this planet called Earth. I pray that the others are doing fine. What was that noise? End log. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.